The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire, the no-show. Who set you back because they didn't show up on day one, or day two, or ever again. And now your product launch is delayed because you're talking to alien abduction podcasters to track them down. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can help make sure your next hire sticks. In fact, businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Pay's checkout is offered by your banks and credit unions. So when you shop online at participating merchants, your cards appear in one place. Pay's. It checks out. Activation required. See Pays.com to learn more. Terms and conditions apply.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
It's episode 5 of the Extra Kick podcast. I'm Ashley Anderson from Louisville, Kentucky. We've got Donald Wine from DC, and we figured we should close it out because we had Spain and Argentina in the final yesterday. Spain, the overall winner of the 2026 World Cup, and I had to get Donald's reaction to it because I know I put it out there. I was not pulling for Argentina. I was pulling for Spain. Donald, were you happy with the result that happened yesterday?
Yeah, I think we talked about this and I had said that France was my team, but once we got down to the semifinal, I said whoever comes from, France was my team that I was pulling for, but if of France and Spain, that was the team I was going to root for in the final. I lived in Spain a couple times, so I'm, very fond of La Roja. I remember, some of my favorite players on their team from back in the day, and I remember how happy they were in 2010 to win it. But actually some weird symmetry in this World Cup. Think about this. 2010, it was in South Africa. The opening match was South Africa versus Mexico. South Africa hosting Mexico. Spain won that World Cup. Fast forward to 2026, it's across North America. The opening match is Mexico hosting South Africa. Spain ended up winning. So I think Spain's basically saying, no matter what, at the next World Cup, since they're hosting it, they're just going to put Mexico and South Africa in a group and have them open up so that they have those vibes continue.
It's always really interesting when this happens in sports, and it's probably further proof for people who believe in the world being a simulation, because I don't understand why that happens as often as it does, where you find those weird coincidences, but it happens. And speaking of that, we were talking before we started recording, the FIFA bag.
Yes.
Put my coffee down. But you have one too. When we were in our host cities, I was just literally getting ready before we were going to record, and I was looking for some kind of yellow shirt for Spain, which I don't have any yellow apparently. At least I have dresses. I wasn't putting a dress on for this. But I noticed the handle. And as an NFL fan, the Super Bowl logo conspiracy theory, you could argue, was it in front of our faces? All of the red, the yellow. You got some blue here for Argentina. Don't know what the armadillo means.
They're going to have to explain the armadillo. That's the. I was with the theory until the armadillo part. That I don't know how that relates to it. But sometimes these circumstances are quirky. It's also a theme because a lot of bags for FIFA have the yellow handle. Here's one from 2023. It obviously doesn't have an armadillo on it. It has a player, but it still has that nice little yellow handle. And I'm curious if that's like their theme, because they've only done this for a few rounds of World Cups. I think 2022 is the first time they started having those bags. So I was hoping we would get more designs and that we can kind of piece together what they were thinking. But I feel like life is a simulation at times, and the details are out there. Or was it the clues are out there, as the X-Files used to say?
Yeah. Well, you debunked my theory by showing me that the yellow handle existed for the Women's World Cup. Maybe there's something hidden in that bag, though, that we're not seeing.
They didn't give me a World Cup trophy, so I was hoping that was in there, but it's not. I guess Spaniards who bought stuff might have one in there. Check your bags. You never know.
a little sore subject, but there were some people that were saying FIFA might have been helping some teams. One of those being Argentina, and that was a big reason I wasn't a big fan of Argentina making it to the final. But it was messy. It's what you want to see. You got the greatest player in the world trying to win back to back in the World Cup, fell short, a lot of emotions. Any chance that he comes back?
He's 39, what, 39 now. I don't think he's coming back. Now, I say that now. He's retired and unretired like 4 times now. He retired back in 2015. He retired again in 2016 when they lost in Copa America. He retired during the lead up to 2018. He then came back and said, "Okay, my beef is resolved. I'm back in the national team." He retired again in 2022 after they won it, and then was like, "Yeah, this next match is going to be my last match." And he said that basically for 4 years, and he's still playing. So the fact that Argentina is hosting one of the games at the next World Cup, I'm going to say he's not going to be playing in that game, but we'll see, because that man clearly does not know when to quit. He's just going to keep going until somebody pulls him aside and says, "Lionel, it's time."
I'm pretty sure he's friends with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady is no stranger to unretiring and obviously has figured out the fountain of youth. So maybe he's going to let Messi get in one more World Cup. But we also have to talk about Spain's player who was seen in a bathtub or taking a bath or getting a bath from Messi. And do we have the new Messi from Spain? He wasn't the one that scored the goal, but do we have the new Messi? And is he going to carry on the legacy in future World Cups?
I mean, I wouldn't say Lamine Yamal is the new Messi. I think he's going to be a new breed of a generation of young players. The fact that he has a champion, or he doesn't have a Champions League, that's the only trophy he has not won yet, and he's 19 years old. He's won a World Cup, he's won a Euros, he's won a league title with Barcelona, but he's on his way. I think, honestly, this World Cup showed us that, yes, Lionel Messi is one of the greatest players to ever live, but Kylian Mbappe, what he did at this World Cup, for me, impressed me the most, because he had all the pressure that Lionel Messi did. Yeah, he fell short as well, but to not only be, I think he was entered this World Cup 3 goals behind Lionel Messi in the race for most all time, and he leaves this World Cup as the record holder for most goals in a World Cup history. So he scored 10 goals, which is third all time in a single one. Like he was everywhere, and he had assists. The only thing he didn't do is win it again. But he's 27. He's been to 3 World Cups. He's never not seen the semifinal. And I think he's going to put way more numbers up there in the next 10 years. Or if he makes it to Messi's age, he could be at 3 more World Cups, which is insane to me, that we're thinking about the next 12 years of Mbappe and what he can do in that time frame.
We're going to talk about the France-England match for the third place playoff, but we got to talk a little bit more about the game yesterday with Spain and Argentina. A long time to see a goal. Seemed like Spain was really dominant on offense. What were your takeaways from that matchup?
I think it was a typical Spanish game. And I say that with all love and respect for them, because they like to take games and grind them down into the dirt, because they're not flashy. They're not sexy with how they play. They just methodically make it where you cannot play your game. And you could see they allowed 1 goal this entire tournament. That's the best defensive effort all time. I think they only allowed like 16 shots or something like that. Like, it was insane how they were able to limit the attack of Argentina, a team who had scored 19 goals or something like that entering this game. They weren't shy about scoring, and Spain made them seem like they were on the wrong track, like in the wrong sport. And at times, the way they were able to kind of keep Messi at bay, knowing that his energy when he gets the ball at his feet is what inspires the rest of the team to perform well, was a masterclass. And it took to the 117th minute for Argentina to even put a shot close to the goal, not even on frame. That is something that has never happened at a World Cup final. So Spain deserves all the credit, and they set a record for the longest winning streak, longest unbeaten streak, I should say, in history, 38 games. So I mean, they have just quietly rebuilt the machine that they had in 2010 into this dominant thing. And now we're thinking, when are they going to get stopped? Because if they play their game, nobody's messing with them. And we've seen that all tournament. The only team that really gave them a run for their money was Cabo Verde in that first match. They learned from that. They're now the champions.
In your opinion, in hindsight, would you say the best team won? Obviously, France came in favored, and we both were kind of pulling for France. Not that we pull for favorites, but we felt like they were, in our opinion, the best team. But now looking back, do you think Spain was the best team? They were number 2 in the FIFA rankings, but they finished number 1, obviously, here. So what do you think in hindsight?
They played like the best team. I mean, that's kind of a cop-out answer. But in hindsight, when you look back and you see that they only allowed 1 goal in the entire tournament, that's, again, the best defensive effort that we've ever seen at the World Cup. And that was part of the idea, because they knew that their defense could keep them in any game that they played in. They only had to score 1 goal to win the World Cup, just like they did in 2010. And even that was an extra time winner for them. But their defensive effort and how they play, keeping the ball away from the opposition, the possession that they held was incredible. So yeah, they were the best team in this tournament. And when you look back at it, they were just a silent killer. When you look back, you're like, nothing about their games was like, wow, Spain really did numbers here. But then you look back and you go, it wasn't necessarily what they did on offense, it's what they prevented their opposition from doing on offense. And they shut down the 2 best teams offensively at this World Cup in the semifinal and the final. That's a remarkable mark. And I will say also, just Spain in general has rebuilt their entire program top to bottom. And now they are the first nation to hold both the men's and women's World Cup at the same time. So that's just a testament to what they've put into this system that they have. And clearly the guys have bought into the system that they have defensively, and it's working.
I think my cat wants to join the conversation. This is what happens when I'm back in Louisville, Kentucky. But let's go back to France, because we had the 3rd place playoff. It was France against England, a high-scoring game. It was pretty shocking. England had 4 goals, then France makes a comeback. It ends up being a 6-4 result. Now, I had this question as someone who's not normally watching a ton of soccer. I was thinking to myself, it's the 3rd place game. Does anyone really care? But it is the World Cup. I was curious from your perspective, having gone to a lot of World Cups, a lot of soccer matches, is there something at stake for these players? Or do some of them actually kind of feel deflated? They didn't make it to the final. Did France care in the beginning? Because, I mean, it was 4-0, 4-0, right? With England up and just kind of dominating. Then France comes back. But what's going on in their minds? Do they care about this game?
You know what's funny? Before the game, both teams were basically like, we don't want to be here. And that's true. When you're in the 3rd place game, that's the one game that neither team wants to be there. They want to be in the final, and they're disappointed that they're not in the final. But it's about how they are able to put that aside and say, hey, we can be one of 2, maybe 3 teams that can leave the World Cup with a win. It may not be the win that we're looking for, but we get a medal out of it. Like they get bronze medals for finishing in 3rd place. And a lot of people just think that the 3rd place game shouldn't exist because the teams don't care. But it was clear in the first half that England cared. They wanted to at least go out with a positive note after falling short of the final. And then France woke up, and France in the second half said, let's make this a game. And it turned into the greatest 3rd place game of all time, without a doubt. It's interesting because the 3rd place game is only as entertaining as the players want it to be, because some of the players are mentally checked out or just, emotionally drained. But it's the teams that put it together and say, hey, we want to wrap this up with a win. Let's wrap this up with a positive. We can get on the podium and get a medal. It may not be the medal we're looking for, but it's always cool to get something. And if you think about the Olympics, there's so many people who are excited, like over the moon to be third, right? And soccer is usually not that way because it's a team sport and you've lost the game to get to that moment. But it was good to see that those guys decided, at least in the second half, let's make this entertaining, let's make this a show. And the best players were the players that kind of came out and said, let's go ahead and do this. And credit to them for sticking it out and making it a game for the ages because it was. And I think now people might have a different opinion of the third place game because of how they played, as opposed to some of the snoozers we've seen before where teams are literally just kicking the ball around and not really caring what happens because both teams are just mentally and emotionally deflated.
And there was some history that was made. You had Jude Bellingham getting the seventh goal in a tournament, or the English record of 7 goals in a single tournament. You also had the hat trick, and Bellingham could have gone for that seventh goal, but decided to give it to Saka so that he could get the hat trick, right? So that was a cool moment. And I suppose some of these players did have something at stake that they could, come away with a hat trick or make some history for their country. But yeah, at the beginning, I kept thinking, is anyone trying? Or at least, is anyone trying on France?
I was hoping, I mean, entering the game, I was sitting here thinking, because at that point, Mbappe was tied in the Golden Boot race with Messi, and Kane was like, I think 2 goals behind him. And I was like, yo, if this is like 5-4 with Mbappe having 5 and Kane having 4, I think everyone would love that, right? Because it would give some drama entering the last day, and Messi on course to get the Golden Boot if he had scored a goal. And then Mbappe was like, I'm leaving here with something, and he left there with another Golden Boot. He's the first player ever to win 2 Golden Boots at a World Cup. So that part was great, and you could tell in the second half he was trying. I mean, as the captain, he was trying to will France to try and get back into it, and they almost did. It was 4-3, and then like seconds after they scored their third goal, they almost had a fourth, and it was just drama all the way to the end. But I'm glad that Mbappe at least woke up and said, "Let me get this Golden Boot so I can get up out of here," and scored a couple of magnificent goals in the second half to clinch it.
It was fun to see such a high-scoring game unexpectedly with how it started on France's end. And then the next day, we had a very low-scoring game. And I have to point out the jokes I saw from NFL memes because now, the tides are turning. We're going back to American football here in the U.S. But the jokes about MetLife, the Jets, they can't score in MetLife. The Giants, they can't score. And neither can Spain or Argentina, apparently. Well, Spain can, but it took a long time.
Do you see the one for the semifinal? It was like teams who have won playoff games in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Was like, we've had an MLS Cup, we've had a Super Bowl, we've had World Cup semifinal in this building. We still have not had a Falcons playoff game like that. Those were the jokes that I was living for, and even just the video of like AT&T Stadium and some of the other NFL stadiums taking out the grass and putting the artificial turf back in, and people go, wait, hold up, we have a whole football season, like keep that there, we still need that. Those things are funny as we start to mentally shift to other things to keep our minds preoccupied because there's no more World Cup to watch.
It wouldn't be an NFL season without a few ACL tears.
Right.
Out there. But unfortunately, it happens, and more likely on turf. But I don't know. Sometimes you don't learn lessons, I suppose. But maybe things will change over time, and we'll have natural grass because I know the players want it. But speaking of football, I did get the notification that my fantasy football league has been activated. So I was thinking this watching the World Cup. Okay, the U.S., we had this month where we're rallying around soccer, which is not always normal in the US. And we talked about it last episode. Is this World Cup going to bring on more soccer fans here in the United States? As far as the World Cup in general for you, from having watched other World Cups, this was a 48-team format, first time. Where do you rank this World Cup from the ones you've been to? And I know that you also the US did really well compared to some of the past World Cups, or there were times they didn't even make it. So I know that might factor into it, but you've been to all sorts of countries for the World Cup. So where does this one rank?
That's a great question, Ashley. I mean, 2019 Women's World Cup in France, that's the greatest tournament I've ever attended, start to finish. I was there the entire time. Obviously, seeing the U.S. win the World Cup was that's a moment I'll never forget. So that's always going to be number one for me. This one's probably top three, and I think it's because of the fact that it was here. And me, I love traveling to these places, and some of these places that we've been to have been fantastic. But to have a home World Cup where, I had the means to attend, I had the means to bring people that have been a part of my journey in life and in soccer, to see so many people who were building that bond, right? You introducing yourself to the game, and being on site for so many of these moments. Those type of things you don't get when it's elsewhere. You just get the people who are like, "Oh, you're going to Brazil. That's cool. Tell me how it is when you get back." And it's not really front of mind, but it felt like everywhere you went, people were talking about it because it's right in our face. It was in our cities. It was, even DC had fan fests because people were so excited about this World Cup being here and being able to travel around to some of these games. So I think this one ranks up there for me because of that fact. Now, the U.S. obviously didn't do as well as in other World Cups that I've been to for the men or women, but I thought it was I got to see a knockout game win for the first time. It was the first time since 2002 that the men have won a knockout game. I saw a knockout stage game, period, for the men's side for the first time. I've never done that. I've only done it for the women. And so I didn't, again, be able to kind of travel across the country. And I was telling someone this the other day. The final thing that I'll say is, even though we were in American stadiums, I asked myself, would this still feel like a World Cup? Would it, like the visuals when I watch it on TV, will I go, oh, this is a World Cup atmosphere, this is a World Cup vibe? Or am I just watching two international teams play in Seattle? It was the former. Like every game that I watched, there was not a point where I go, this looks weird because they're playing at BMO Field in Toronto and that stadium doesn't hold that many people. Each stadium, each match had a World Cup vibe to it. And that was what I was hoping for, because I think that's what's going to help capture people's interests. And now it's on the individual leagues and the teams and the players and everyone else to kind of say, how do we keep these people interested? Is like the sickos are one thing, but the people who introduced themselves to the game during this World Cup, how do we say, hey, yeah, you don't have to pay $1,000 for a ticket. Come to the Washington Spirit game. It's $15 to watch them play, and they're the best team in the league. You have the best players in the league. How do I get you to a DC United game? It's only $30 for a ticket, as opposed to $1,000 to see Spain play in a semifinal. So those are the things that hopefully this country and the people who are in the big soccer rooms can take advantage of, because that is what will help shape the legacy of this World Cup and make it where when we look back, 10, 15 years from now, we go, that 2026 World Cup meant something because it turned this country from this to a powerhouse. Or the soccer interest got to the point where now soccer's on every channel. We don't have to worry about going into a bar and asking them if they can put the game on. It's already on. Those little things that are so innate for us in other sports, football, basketball, baseball, we want soccer to have that same status. And I think the World Cup gave us at least a little bit of microcosm of what it could look like moving forward, but we still got to take advantage of it.
Do you have any ideas or suggestions on what can be done to keep the momentum going?
I think for me, it's about getting people back out to games. And it's not that people aren't coming to soccer games, but soccer, I mean, what was the one biggest talking point about this World Cup? The ticket prices, how expensive it was, and people feeling like they were priced out of a World Cup. Well, I got to see World Cup games for $66, which is still, it's closer to where we want to be, but we want to have games where for the U.S. national team, men's and women's, for individual teams, that people can come out and bring their family and have a good time, because that's what turns a casual fan into a passionate fan. That's what turns a passionate fan and to a sicko like me who watches soccer all the time and tries to find any corner of the earth where soccer is being played and try to get it on my television screen. That's how you build that moment. It's by going to the games and experiencing it and being a part of that passion and being able to see either the next stars or some of the current stars on the field. That's the easiest first step, is to make the accessibility continue to improve both on television and getting people who are close to a stadium out to the stadium, and keep them coming, because it's one thing to get them out there on a $10 ticket and then the next time they go, it's 100. They're not coming back. You want to have that sustained growth because the kids are going to be your fan base that are buying the tickets years from now. You want them to be excited about watching the local team play, whatever league they're in. So that's the first step for me.
So, Donald, as a self-proclaimed sicko, I assume you already have a ticket purchased for a soccer game in the future. What's the next soccer match for you?
Well, it's this Sunday for me. Now that the leagues are back into play, I have my Washington Spirit tickets, so they're in action here. But funny enough, like just last week, they announced that the U.S. women's national team was playing Spain in 2 games here. One here in D.C., the other in Chester, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. So I already have tickets to both of those. I had a whole group of people that were waiting on word that their tickets have come through, so that we have a nice big group for those games. But again, that's just an easy thing. Number 1 versus number 2 in the world on the women's side, and for them to be right here, like that was an easy decision, and it was great to once again be able to tell my friends locally, hey, the best soccer in the world is going to be played here in October. Who wants it? And to be able to get a bunch of people to be interested and excited about the game for that. So again, it's sometimes it's right in front of your door. Sometimes you might have to work for it, but I'm hoping that a lot of people find that research, do that research, take the time, go to some of the games. I know for you, I know you go to Louisville City and games quite often. So that's the easy way, because USL again is a nice bridge into seeing some of the next players who could be a part of national teams and other professional teams, and seeing them go to Europe and things like that.
Well, I think we've covered about all we probably need to for the final game, the third place playoff, and the World Cup as a whole. It's been a fun 5-episode journey of the Extra podcast, but I think we probably could continue it, and maybe not just football, because the Extra Kick kind of applies to American football. So we'll have to see, Donald, if we continue this forward with more than one sport. What do you think?
I mean, that's definitely something we could talk about, because football, American football is around the corner. You have your Patriots, I have my Lions, and they're actually meeting in Munich in November.
Wish I had a ticket to that.
Me too.
Yeah,
Speaking of ticket prices, those ticket prices, not to be messed with. I do have a hotel though in Munich, so who knows what the wind will blow in the next couple of months, but it's going to be a fun season. And I also just love how all these sports are going to start to come about with all of them together. Like soccer is going to be played at the same time as football and hockey and basketball, the end of baseball. So yeah, it's going to be a fun fall, and college football too. So it's going to be a fun fall. Looking forward to it, but it's been fun to do this with you, Ashley. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I definitely appreciate you being along for the virtual ride, and I know you've been very busy with all your travels, so all of the time you've given to this, greatly appreciated. And I think it'd be really cool if we did somehow figure out a way to go to Germany and do an Extra Kick podcast from a typical soccer stadium, right?
Bayern Munich Stadium. Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Maybe we can hit a big bet and fund our way over to
Bayern Munich, get at us, please.
Yeah, if anyone want to sponsor our tickets,
Lions, Patriots, we are available. Our DMs are open.
Any closing thoughts that we haven't covered on the 2026 World Cup?
I think just generally, thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know some people were checking this out for the first time and really liking what they had to see, but also I hope you enjoyed the World Cup, whether it was your first time, whether you're a long time avid fan. This was a really fun World Cup, one of the best ones we've seen on the field, and the fans were amazing as well. So hopefully everybody who is listening from abroad travels safely, but I hope everyone had a great time and enjoyed this World Cup as much as I did.
No notes. I couldn't add anything to that. Very well said. So I will just close it out here. This is episode 5 of the Extra Kick.